Lila Jackson stands triumphant in a Chicago courtroom. Her cousin's trespassing case dismissed after she dismantles the racist cop's flimsy lies. The judge's gavel slams. Victory surges through her, but Officer Dale Carter's icy glare pierces from the witness stand. They don't know she's a White House policy aide. Her secret's a ticking bomb. As she strides out, Carter mutters a chilling threat no one else catches. This wind's a mirage, and Lila's world is about to unravel. What's he planning next? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. And if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe because tomorrow's wild twist is one you can't miss. Lila Jackson stepped out of the Chicago courthouse into the biting November wind, her breath fogging in the late afternoon chill. Her navy coat flapped around her knees as she clutched her purse, the weight of the day still buzzing in her veins. At 26, she'd just pulled off a miracle, getting her cousin Jamal's trespassing charge tossed out with nothing but her quick wit and a stack of evidence she'd scraped together in 3 sleepless nights. The judge had nodded her way, almost impressed, and Jamal had hugged her so tight she'd felt his relief seep into her bones. She'd outplayed those smug cops, especially that Officer Dale Carter, whose sneer had practically dared her to try. Now, with the sun dipping low over the skyline, she let herself smile, thinking she'd shown them who they were messing with. She didn't flaunt it, but Lila carried a secret heavier than gold. She was a policy aide in the White House, working racial justice initiatives, her ID stashed in a hidden pocket of her bag. Those fools in uniform had no clue, and that was her edge. Her boots clicked against the pavement as she headed toward the L train, replaying the courtroom win in her head. Jamal, a lanky 19-year-old with a grin that could light up a room, had been nabbed outside a shuttered gas station on the south side, waiting for a ride after a late shift at the community college library. The cops claimed he was casing the joint, but Lila had shredded their story with his time-stamped work log and a grainy photo from a nearby ATM camera showing him just standing there, hands in his pockets. Carter had squirmed on the stand, his answers clipped and his eyes venomous, but she'd kept her cool, letting the truth do the heavy lifting. Now Jamal was free, and she was riding a high she hadn't felt since her first day walking the polished halls of DC's power center. The train rattled her back to her neighborhood, a patchwork of brick walk-ups and corner stores where she'd grown up dodging trouble and dreaming big. Her apartment sat on the 3rd floor of a faded red building, the kind with creaky stairs and a buzz-in door that never quite worked. She climbed up, fishing for her keys, already picturing a hot shower, and the leftover jerk chicken she'd saved from Sunday. But when she reached her door, her stomach dropped. A yellow sheet was nailed into the wood, the word eviction screaming in bold black letters. Her pulse spiked as she ripped it down, scanning the text. It claimed she owed 3 months' rent over $2,000 and had 24 hours to pay or vacate. Her hands shook. She'd paid on time every month, wired the money straight from her account, never late once. This was a mistake. Had to be. She stormed down the hall to her phone, dialing the landlord, a guy named Victor Hensley she'd only met twice. He picked up on the 3rd ring, his voice oily and slow. "Yeah, Lila, what's up?" She didn't waste breath on pleasantries, reading him the notice, demanding an explanation. His chuckle slithered through the line. "Oh, that's no mix-up. You're behind, simple as that. Records don't lie." She snapped back, telling him she had bank statements, receipts, proof she'd paid every dime. He cut her off. "Look, I got a call today. Seems you've been stepping on toes and I don't like trouble. Guess you ticked off the wrong people. Pay up or get out." The line clicked dead, leaving her staring at the wall, fury boiling in her chest. Carter, that snake, had done this. She could see his face in her mind, those cold blue eyes and the way his lip had curled when she'd walked out of court. He'd lost in front of his buddies, and now he was hitting back, digging into her life like a vulture. She yanked open her laptop, pulling up her bank records, every transaction time-stamped and clean. She'd take this to Hensley tomorrow, shove it in his face, make him eat his own lies. For now, she needed to warn Jamal, make sure Carter wasn't gunning for him too. She dialed his number, pacing her cramped living room, the eviction notice crumpled in her fist. He answered, voice groggy but warm. "Lila, you good?" She forced a laugh, asking if he'd made it back to his dorm okay. He had, crashing after. The stress of the day, safe for now. She told him to lock his door, keep his head down just in case. He mumbled agreement, already half asleep. She hung up, sinking onto her couch, the adrenaline fading into a dull ache. Her apartment wasn't much, a one-bedroom with peeling paint and a radiator that clanked like a drum, but it was hers, earned through years of grinding from South Side, streets to Howard University to the White House. She'd grown up watching her mum, a nurse who'd worked doubles to keep food on the table, and her dad, a janitor who'd died when she was 12, both teaching her to stand tall no matter what. That grit had landed her in D.C., crafting policies to fight the very injustices she'd just faced in court. Carter thought he could scare her out of her own home. He didn't know who he was dealing with. She'd fix this, just like she'd fixed Jamal's mess. Sleep tugged at her, but a noise snapped her awake, a sharp wail slicing through the night. She bolted to the window, peering through the blinds. Red and blue lights flashed below, 3 squad cars parked crooked across the street. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Cops spilled out, their radios crackling, boots stomping toward her. Building. She grabbed her purse, fumbling for her White House ID, her shield against whatever this was. The buzz-in door screeched open downstairs, followed by heavy steps thundering up the stairs. She backed against the wall, mind racing. Had Carter cooked up some new lie? A fist pounded her door, shaking the frame. "Chicago PD, open up now!" The voice was rough, impatient, and she knew this wasn't random. She swung the door wide, staring down 4 officers in tactical vests, their faces hard and unfamiliar. The lead one, a stocky guy with a buzz cut, barked, "Lila Jackson?" She nodded, holding her ID out like a talisman. "What's this about?" He ignored the card, shoving past her, his crew fanning out. "Got a tip you're hiding something illegal, step aside," she protested, voice rising, demanding a warrant, but he just smirked, nodding to the others. They tore into her place, flipping cushions, dumping drawers, boots grinding dirt into her rug. She spotted Carter then, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, his uniform crisp and his eyes glinting with malice. "Found something," one cop yelled, holding up a baggie of white powder from her kitchen cabinet, a place she hadn't touched in days. Her stomach lurched, planted. Carter stepped closer, voice low and venomous. "Eviction's the least of your worries now." She lunged forward, shouting it wasn't hers, but a cop grabbed her arm, twisting it behind her back. Pain shot through. Her shoulder as cuffs clicked tight, cold metal biting her wrists. Carter loomed over her, his breath hot on her face. "You think you're smart, huh? Proving a point in court. Let's see how smart you feel downtown." They dragged her out, past neighbors peeking through cracked doors, their whispers stinging worse than the cuffs. The squad car smelled of sweat and stale coffee as they shoved her in, Carter sliding into the front seat, his smirk a blade in the dark. She clutched her purse, the ID still inside, her mind spinning. He'd framed her, turned her win into a trap, and now she was headed for a cell. The precinct was a blur of fluorescent lights and shouting voices, her booking a humiliating shuffle through fingerprints and mugshots. She demanded her call, dialing Maya, her White House supervisor, voice trembling as she explained the raid, the drugs, Carter's grudge. Maya's tone sharpened, promising to dig into it, but hours crawled by before they cut her loose. No charges. Filed, just a warning to stay out of trouble. Back home, her apartment was a war zone, furniture splintered, dishes smashed. She sank to the floor, exhaustion crashing over her, but Carter's threat echoed louder than the silence. This was his opening shot, a dirty play to break her, and she knew he'd keep coming harder and meaner, until she cracked. Lila Jackson woke to sunlight slicing through her broken blinds, her body aching from a night slumped on the trashed couch. The eviction notice lay crumpled on the floor, a yellow bruise against the chaos Officer Dale Carter had left behind. Her apartment looked like a tornado had hit it, cushions gutted, books splayed, her grandma's old vase in shards by the sink. That baggie of powder, planted by Carter's goons, still haunted her, a ghost she couldn't shake. She rubbed her wrists where the cuffs had bitten, fury simmering beneath her exhaustion. He thought he'd scare her off with this. She'd faced worse growing up on Chicago's South Side, dodging gang recruiters and teachers who'd written her off before she could prove them wrong. Today she'd fight back, starting with that slimy landlord, Victor Hensley. She showered quick, the hot water barely easing the knots in her shoulders, then pulled on a grey sweater and jeans, stuffing her bank statements into a backpack. Her White House ID was still in her purse, a lifeline she'd clung to during the raid, though Carter's crew had poured through everything else. She replayed Hensley's oily voice on the phone, his wrong people jab pointing straight to Carter. How deep did this go? Could a beat cop really pull strings like that? She grabbed her keys and headed out, the stairwell echoing with her steps, each one a vow to bury this nonsense. Hensley's office squatted in a strip mall 10 blocks away, a dingy hole between a vape shop and a laundromat buzzing with dryers. She pushed through the glass door, the bell jangling like a warning. Hensley sat behind a cluttered desk, balding head gleaming under a flickering bulb, a smirk tugging his lips as she stormed in. "Back already, Lila?" he drawled, leaning, back in his chair. She didn't sit, just slapped the bank statements down, pages fanning out like a winning hand. "Every payment on time, wired straight to you. Explain this eviction crap now." His eyes flicked over the papers, then back, to her unfazed. "Records can be wrong, sweetheart. Mine say you owe." She leaned in, voice steel. "Call me sweetheart again and I'll sue you into next year. Fix this, or I'm at the housing board by noon." His smirk faltered, just for a second. Then, he sighed, picking up the phone. Fine, let's see." A quick call to his bookkeeper, a mumble about mix-ups, and he hung up, shrugging. "Looks like you're clear. Notice is off. Happy?" She didn't trust it, not with Carter's shadow lurking, but she nodded, snatching her papers back. "Keep it that way." Walking out, she felt a flicker of triumph, a small win against the machine. Had she outsmarted Carter's petty game? Was he really that sloppy? She let herself breathe, the crisp air tasting like victory as she headed home, imagining his face when he heard she'd dodged his first punch. That flicker died fast. She turned onto her street and the world flipped upside down. A boom shattered the quiet, a flashbang bursting through her living room window, glass exploding outward like jagged rain. She froze, heart slamming as black-clad figures swarmed. Her building, boots pounding the pavement. "Chicago PD, stay back!" a voice roared, but she was already running, instinct screaming to get inside, stop whatever this was. Smoke poured from her apartment as she hit the stairs, coughing, eyes stinging. She burst through her door and straight into chaos, 4 cops tearing her place apart again, worse than last night. One flipped her mattress, another smashed her TV with a baton, shards flying. "What the hell is this?" she yelled, voice raw. Carter stepped from the kitchen, casual as if he owned the place, a grin splitting his face. "Got another tip, Jackson. You're a busy girl." She spotted her purse on the counter, unzipped, contents spilling. Her White House ID was gone, snatched by his grubby hands. A tall cop with a scar over his eye waved a warrant. Fake or not, she couldn't tell. "Drugs again," he grunted, holding up nothing but air, bluffing. She lunged for her purse, but Carter blocked her, chest puffed. "You're nothing special, girl, just another troublemaker." His words dripped venom, each syllable a jab at her skin, her roots, everything she'd built. She shoved past, grabbing her phone, dialing Maya, as they cuffed her again, tighter this time, metal cutting into her flesh. The precinct was colder, harsher under daylight, the buzz of booking a familiar sting. She spat out her story to Maya between fingerprint scans, Carter's raid, the missing ID, his grudge from court. "They took it, Maya. My proof." Her boss's voice crackled through, calm but edged. "I'll handle it, Lila. Sit tight." Hours dragged, her sitting on a hard bench, watching cops strut by, some tossing her smirks, others ignoring her like she was invisible. Carter lingered, flipping through a clipboard, his laugh a blade in the silence. Released again, no charges, just a warning from a desk sergeant who wouldn't meet her eyes. She stumbled home, the wreck greeting her like a punch. Furniture splintered, walls gouged, her life in pieces. She sank to her knees, realization sinking in. Carter had her ID, her shield. leaving her naked against whatever he'd throw next. She scrolled her phone, numb, seeing Carter's game clear as day. He'd lost in court, so he'd hit her home, her dignity, now her power. What kind of man wielded a badge like a club? How far would he push this? She pictured Jamal, safe for now, but dread gnawed at her. Was he next? Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Carter's a coward hiding behind his uniform, or number 2 if you'd fight back like Lila. Smash that like button if you're raging at this injustice, and subscribe because this story's about to explode with twists you won't believe. She stood, brushing glass off her palms, defiance flickering back. Carter thought he'd broken her, but he'd just lit a fuse. What's he got planned with that ID? Lila Jackson slumped against her apartment wall, the sting of glass dust still sharp in her throat. Her trashed home mocked her, a battlefield where Officer Dale Carter had struck twice in 24 hours. The missing White House ID gnawed. Had her a stolen piece of her armor, but she couldn't dwell. She needed answers, a way to hit back. She grabbed her phone, hands trembling, and dialed Maya, her supervisor in D.C. The line crackled, then Maya's voice cut through, steady as stone. "Lila, you okay? What's this about your ID?" Lila spilled it all, the raid, Carter's smirk, the way his crew had torn through her life like wolves. "They took it, Maya. My badge. He's got it now." Maya sucked in a breath, then promised action. "I'll order a replacement, start an inquiry. Stay safe, call if it gets worse." Safe felt like a joke with Carter out there, but Lila nodded to the empty room, hanging up. She couldn't stay here, not with her door half off its hinges and her belongings strewn like confetti. She stuffed clothes into a duffel, grabbed her laptop and texted Jamal. "Need a crash spot. Your dorm good?" His reply pinged fast. "Yeah, come through. You all right?" She typed back a quick, "Fine," lying to keep him calm, then bolted, the night air biting her cheeks as she jogged to the L train. The city blurred past, lights smearing into streaks, her mind churning. Carter had her ID. What could he do? With it? Forge something? Blackmail her? She'd underestimated him, thought he'd slink off after court, but he was a dog with a bone, and she was the meat. Jamal's dorm at Chicago State loomed ahead, a squat brick tower buzzing with late night noise. He met her at the entrance, all lanky limbs and worried eyes, his hoodie swallowing his frame. "Lila, what's going on? You look like hell." She forced a smile, stepping into the warm lobby. "Long story. Couch free." He nodded, leading her up to his cramped room, a mess of textbooks and empty ramen cups. She dropped her bag, sinking onto a futon that smelled faintly of stale beer, and told him about the eviction dodge, skipping the raid to spare him the wait. He flopped onto his bed, grinning. "You're a badass, you know that, sticking it to those cops." She almost laughed, the tension easing for a heartbeat until a crash split the air. Glass shattered somewhere below, a jagged sound that jolted her upright. Jamal frowned, peering out his window. What was that? Lila joined him, her pulse spiking as she spotted a brick on the lawn, its edges glinting under a street lamp. Scratched into its surface, crude and deep, was a single word. Trash. Her stomach twisted. She'd seen this before, kids tossing rocks for kicks, but this felt different, heavier. Jamal cursed, grabbing his phone, but Lila's eyes caught movement. A patrol car easing down the street, slow as a predator. Carter sat in the driver's seat, his face a pale smear in the dark, staring up at her. "He's here," she whispered, dread pooling in her gut. Jamal dialed campus security, voice tight, reporting the brick, but Lila knew it wouldn't matter. Carter's car idled, then rolled off, leaving a chill in its wake. Security showed up 10 minutes later, 2 bored guards, in wrinkled uniforms who scribbled notes and shrugged. "Probably just pranksters. We'll file it." Lila bit her tongue, the slur on that brick burning in her mind. Trash. Not random, not a prank, a message from Carter, aimed at her skin, her blood. She stayed by the window after they left, watching shadows stretch across the quad, every rustle, making her flinch. Jamal crashed out, snoring softly, but sleep dodged her, Carter's grin a ghost in the dark. Morning broke grey and heavy, the dorm quiet except for Jamal's alarm blaring at 7. Lila rubbed her eyes. exhaustion clinging like damp clothes, and checked her phone. A text from Maya. New ID shipping tomorrow. FBI's looking into Carter. Hold tight. Relief flickered, but it died fast when Jamal stumbled in from the bathroom, face ashen. Lila, check this. He shoved a crumpled paper at her, a university notice, bold print screaming his expulsion. Vandalism, it read, citing the brick incident, pinning it on him with no proof, no hearing. Her jaw dropped. This is insane. You didn't do anything. He paced, fists clenched. They're saying I trashed my own window, effective today. I'm out. She scanned the letter, rage boiling up. The timing, the flimsy excuse, Carter's car last night, it all clicked. He'd hit her. Now he'd struck Jamal, twisting the system to punish them both. He did this, she spat, crumpling the paper. Carter's paying back the court loss. Jamal sank onto the futon, head in his hands. What do we do? I can't lose school, Lila. It's all I've got. She stood, pacing, mind racing. She'd call the dean, fight this, but Carter's reach was longer than she'd thought. How? Did he pull this off so fast? Who was he leaning on? She grabbed her phone, dialing Maya again, voice shaking as she explained. He's targeting Jamal now, expulsion out of nowhere. It's him. Maya's tone hardened. This is Escalation. I'll push the FBI, see if they can trace it. Stay with Jamal, keep him safe. Lila hung up, staring at her cousin, his future, slipping through her fingers like sand. She'd thought dodging the eviction was a win, a slap at Carter's ego, but he doubled down, hitting where it hurt most. We're not done, she told Jamal, voice firm, despite the tremor in her chest. I'll fix this. He nodded, eyes hollow, trusting her like always. She stepped outside, needing air, and spotted Carter's patrol car again, parked 2 blocks away, his silhouette a taunt. She marched toward it, fury overriding fear, ready to confront him. He rolled down the window as she approached, his grin, wide and wicked. Morning, Jackson. Sleep well? She planted her feet, glaring. You think this is funny? Framing me now, Jamal? He chuckled, leaning out, his breath sour with coffee. You think DC cares about you? Some nobody with a fancy badge? You're a spec, girl. Keep pushing. See what happens. She balled her fists, nails digging into her palms. You're a coward, Carter, hiding behind your buddies, your lies. His eyes narrowed, grin fading to a snarl. Watch your mouth. You don't know what I can do. He peeled off, tires squealing, leaving her shaking in the street. Back in the dorm, she sank beside Jamal, his expulsion notice a weight between them. Carter wasn't just petty. He was ruthless. A man who'd burn her world to ash for daring to win. She'd thought the raid was his big move, but this, stripping Jamal's future, was colder, crueler. What kind of power let him twist a university's arm overnight? Was he alone, or was there more behind him? She hugged Jamal, his shoulders stiff, and whispered, I'll get you back in. Promise. But doubt gnawed at her. Carter had her. ID her address, now her family in his sights. She'd underestimated his venom, and he was already plotting worse, a storm she couldn't see coming. Night fell, the dorm's hum a dull roar around her. She sat by the window, laptop open, digging. Into Carter's past. A few old articles popped up, commendations for bravery, but nothing dirty, nothing she could use. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. She answered, cautious. Jackson? A voice rasped low and unfamiliar. Drop it, or he's next. The line went dead, her blood icing over. Jamal slept across the room, oblivious, but she knew Carter's game had just leveled up. He wasn't stopping at expulsion, he was coming for blood, and she was running out of moves. Lila Jackson sat hunched over her laptop in Jamal's dorm, the screen's glow carving shadows into her tired face. The anonymous call still echoed in her skull, a gravelly, drop it, or he's next, that turned her blood to ice. Officer. Dale Carter wasn't playing anymore. He was hunting, and Jamal's expulsion was just the opening shot. She'd spent the night digging, finding scraps on Carter, commendations masking a darker edge she couldn't yet prove. Her phone buzzed, Maya's name flashing. Lila, good news, her boss said, voice crisp. New IDs overnighted, and the FBI's got Carter on their radar. You're back at work Monday. Lila exhaled, a sliver of hope piercing the dread. "Thanks, Maya. Tell them to hurry." She leaned back, rubbing her neck, the futon creaking beneath her. Jamal snored across the room, oblivious to the storm brewing. She'd won a round, dodging that eviction with bank statements, and now the White House was stepping in. Could Carter really outrun the feds? She grabbed her phone, texting a local reporter she'd met at a policy conference, a guy named Eli, who'd sniffed around police corruption before. "Got a tip," she typed. "Brick through my cousin's window, racial slur carved in. Cops ignored it. Interested?" His reply was instant. "Hell yeah. Meet me tomorrow, noon, the Rusty." "Tap," she smiled, tight and fierce. Time to turn the heat up. Morning dragged in, grey clouds choking the sky. Jamal shuffled off to appeal his expulsion, armed with a letter she'd drafted, while Lila headed to the bar, a dive tucked between pawn shops on the west side. Eli waited in a booth, wiry and sharp-eyed, nursing a beer. She slid in, recounting the brick, Carter's patrol car lurking, the expulsion that followed. "He's a cop with a grudge," she said, voice low. "Lost a case. Now he's screwing us over." Eli scribbled notes, brow furrowed. "This smells dirty. I'll run it, see what shakes loose." She nodded, a spark of triumph flaring. If the story hit, Carter might squirm, maybe back off. By afternoon, Eli's piece dropped online. Racist vandalism ignored by CPD, with a photo of the brick and its ugly slur blown up big. Twitter lit up. Hashtags like "Justice for Jamal," trending as strangers raged at the cops' shrug. Lila watched from the dorm, refreshing the page, her chest swelling. Jamal burst in, grinning. "Dean called. I'm back in. Pressure worked." She hugged him, laughing, the weight lifting for a moment. Had she finally outplayed Carter? Was this the push that had buried him? They decided to celebrate, hitting a bar near campus, a dim joint with sticky floors and a jukebox pumping soul. Tunes. The place hummed with students, laughter cutting through the haze of cigarette smoke. Lila sipped a gin and tonic, Jamal beside her with a Coke, his mood brighter than it had been in days. "You're a genius, Lila," he said, clinking her glass. She grinned, letting the music wash over her, the first real breather since court. Maybe the feds would nab Carter. Maybe the story would stick. Maybe she'd won. Then the door banged open and the air shifted, heavy and wrong. 3 guys swaggered in, off-duty cops by their buzz cuts and cocky strides, eyes locking on her. She knew that look, had felt it in the courthouse, the precinct, the street. The leader, a slab of a man with a crooked nose, leaned on their table, beer bottle dangling from his fingers. Well, it's the big shot," he slurred, loud, enough to turn heads. "Think you're untouchable, huh?" Lila stiffened, setting her drink down. "Walk away," she said, voice steady. He laughed, a wet, ugly sound, and his buddies closed in, boxing them. "Heard you're crying to the press?" Another snarled, a skinny guy with a scar on his cheek. "Calling us racists? You're the problem, girl." The slur hit next, sharp and public, slicing through the bar's buzz. Jamal stood, fists tight, but Lila grabbed his arm, whispering, "Don't." Too late. Crooked nose swung, bottle smashing. Against Jamal's shoulder, glass exploding. Lila yelled, shoving back, but Scarface grabbed her, slamming her into the wall. Pain bloomed in her ribs as the third guy, a wiry punk, landed a fist in her gut. The bar erupted, screams and chairs scraping, but no one jumped in, phones out instead, filming. She fought, nails raking Scarface's arm, tasting blood as a punch split her lip. Jamal tackled Wiry, taking a knee to the chest, grunting. Then it stopped, the trio backing off, laughing as they bolted, leaving her crumpled against the jukebox, Jamal wheezing beside her. Blood trickled down her chin, her sweater torn, the bar spinning as strangers gawked. A bartender called 911, but she knew CPD wouldn't care, not with Carter's stench on this. Her phone buzzed, notifications piling up, the fight already viral. Shaky footage spreading like wildfire. She crawled to Jamal, his face bruised, eyes wide. "You okay?" she rasped. He nodded, wincing, and she pulled him up, staggering outside as sirens wailed in the distance. Back at the dorm, she cleaned her split lip, rage drowning the pain. Carter hadn't swung the fists, but those were his dogs, unleashed after her story hit. What kind of coward sent thugs to a bar? She checked her email, hands shaking, and froze. A message from Maya, subject, urgent. Lila, your position's under review. Someone mailed your ID with a resignation letter claiming you quit. We're investigating, but stay low. Her stomach plummeted. Carter. He'd used her stolen ID, forged a lie to gut her career, timed it with the beating to break her. She showed Jamal, his jaw dropping. He's insane, he whispered. She nodded, fury boiling over. The brick story had backfired, not scared him off, but lit a match under his hate. She'd thought she'd turned the tide, but he'd turned it into a tidal wave, smashing her life again. Her phone lit up with calls, White House colleagues, reporters, but she ignored them, pacing the dorm. How did Carter know those cops? Were they his crew, or just racist freeloaders jumping her fame? She pictured his grin in the patrol car, mocking her, and now this, a public beating and a career stab. Drop a comment with number 1 if you'd spit in Carter's face for this, or number 2 if Lila's fight inspires you to stand up. Hit that like button if this brutality makes your blood boil, and subscribe because this roller coaster's climbing. Higher. She sank onto the futon, Jamal icing his shoulder beside her, both silent. She'd won Jamal's school back, but at what cost? What's Carter cooking up with that ID now? Lila Jackson sat on Jamal's futon, the ice pack on her swollen lip, melting into a cold drip down her chin. The bar fight replayed in her skull, those off-duty cops' fists landing like Carter's proxies, each blow a message she couldn't ignore. Her phone buzzed again, Maya's email about the forged resignation letter glowing on the screen, a dagger aimed at her White House gig. She thought leaking the brick story would corner Carter, force him to back off. But he'd turned it into a war, hitting her body and her career in one vicious night. She dialed Maya, voice hoarse. It's not me, Maya, that letter's fake. Carter stole my ID, he's behind this. Maya's reply was clipped, furious. I know, Lila. HR's on it, proving it's fraud. You're reinstated, effective now. Stay sharp. Relief washed over her, thin but real. She tossed the ice aside, wincing as she stood, her ribs aching from Scarface's punch. Jamal watched, his own bruises darkening under the dorm's dim light. You're still in? He asked, hope flickering. She nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, they've got my back. She pictured Carter squirming when he heard she'd dodged his latest trap, her job secure again. Maybe the FBI was closing in. Maybe she'd outlast him. She grabbed her laptop, needing to work to feel normal, and logged into her White House portal. Policy drafts waited, youth programs she'd fought to fund, a lifeline to sanity amid the chaos. The day crawled by, Jamal at class, Lila holed up in the dorm, drafting emails to DC. Her new ID would arrive tomorrow, Maya had said, and the FBI was digging into Carter's dirt. She let herself believe it, let the rhythm of work dull the pain. Night fell, the campus quiet, and she crashed early, exhaustion pulling her under. She woke to pounding, not on the door, but in her chest, as boots stormed the hall outside, shouts erupted. Federal agents, open up! She bolted upright, Jamal stumbling from his bed, eyes wide. The door flew open before she could move. 6 agents in dark jackets swarming in, guns drawn, flashlights blinding her. Lila Jackson? A gruff voice barked, a broad-shouldered man with a badge flashing in her face. She nodded, throat dry. What's happening? He didn't answer, just yanked her arms behind her, cuffs snapping tight, colder and sharper than Carter's crew. You're under arrest. Classified document leak. White House breach. Her stomach dropped, the room spinning. That's impossible, she stammered, but they hauled her up, shoving her toward the door. Jamal lunged, yelling, she didn't do anything. An agent blocked him, hand on his holster, and Lila shook her head, desperate. Stay back, Jamal, I'll fix this. They dragged her out, past gaping students, her bare feet scraping the floor, dread swallowing her whole. The Fed van was a steel cage, its engine rumbling as they sped downtown. She sat chained to a bench, mind racing. Classified leak? She hadn't touched anything sensitive. Her work was public outreach, not secrets. Carter, that stolen ID, he'd planted something, framed her bigger than drugs or eviction. The precinct loomed, not CPD this time, but a federal holding site, all concrete and steel, the air thick with antiseptic. They processed her fast. Prints, photos, her mugshot, a hollow-eyed stranger staring back. She got her call, dialing Maya. Voice shaking. "Feds nabbed me saying I leaked docs. It's Carter. He used my ID." Maya cursed loud and sharp. "This is insane. I'll get legal. We'll fight it. Hang on." Hours bled into a grey haze. Lila stuck in a cell, the walls closing in. She replayed every move since court, every clash with Carter, his grin a constant taunt. He'd gone nuclear, twisting her White House status into a noose. Morning broke. A lawyer in a crisp suit arriving, White House sent, his briefcase a lifeline. "Bail set. Evidence is thin," he said, voice low. "Your ID was used to access restricted files, but it's sloppy. Smells like a setup. You're out today." She nodded, numb, as he worked the papers. Released by noon, she stepped. Into blinding sunlight, the lawyer driving her back to Jamal's dorm, promising to unravel Carter's mess. Jamal hugged her tight when she walked in, his relief palpable. "Thought they'd keep you," he muttered. She sank onto the futon, head pounding. They tried. She dug into Carter's past again, laptop humming, desperate for leverage. An old arrest report surfaced, a brutality complaint buried years back, hinting at a ring of dirty cops he ran with. Was this his crew, the bar thugs, the brick tossers? She sent it to Maya, whispering, "Check this," when her phone rang. "An unknown number," she answered, cautious. "Jackson," a woman rasped, "you're digging too deep, drop it." The line died, but before she could process, another call hit, her bank this time. "Miss Jackson," a robotic voice said, "your accounts are frozen. Suspected terrorist financing, federal order." She laughed, a brittle, broken sound, then slammed the phone down. Terrorist funds. Her savings, her rent money, gone. She checked online, every account locked, red warnings flashing. Jamal stared, jaw slack. What now? She paced, fury drowning fear. Carter had her ID. He'd framed her for a leak, now this, painting her as a national threat. How far could he stretch this lie? She called Maya again, voice cracking. "Bank's frozen. They're calling me a terrorist. It's him." Maya's silence stretched, then, "FBI's got an anonymous tip tying you to it. We're fighting, but this is bad." Lila sank to the floor, the dorm's thin carpet rough against her palms. Carter wasn't just a rogue cop. He was a puppet master, pulling strings she couldn't see. The leak charge, flimsy as it was, had cracked open, and now this, a financial chokehold to crush her. She pictured him laughing, that cold, cutting grin, knowing he'd turned her win into a nightmare. Jamal knelt beside her, voice soft. "We'll get through this, right?" She nodded, lying again, her mind spinning. The White House could clear the leak, maybe, but this terrorist label, that was a beast she didn't know how to fight. Had he hacked her life, or was he deeper, connected to something bigger? She grabbed her laptop, hands shaking, searching Carter's name with corruption. More hits, whispers of a shadow network, cops shielding each other, burying complaints. She emailed Maya the links, begging for FBI eyes on it. Night pressed in, the dorm's hum a distant drone, and she sat by the window, staring at the dark. Carter had her ID, her job on a thread, now her money, all to break her for daring to win in court. What kind of man turned a trespassing case into this? How much power did he wield? She hugged her knees, Jamal asleep behind her, and felt the walls tighten. The feds might clear her, but Carter's next move loomed, a shadow she couldn't outrun. Sleep dodged her, the anonymous calls replaying, the bank's robotic voice a taunt. She checked her email, Maya's reply short. FBI's tracing the tip. Stay put. But staying put felt like surrender, and Carter wasn't stopping. He'd framed her, beaten her, now starved her, each blow harder, meaner. She thought of Jamal's expulsion, reversed, then eclipsed by this, her family dragged into his vendetta. The White House was her shield, but it was cracking, and Carter knew it. She closed her eyes, his grin burned into her lids, a promise of worse to come, a storm gathering she couldn't weather alone. Lila Jackson crouched by the dorm window, the Chicago night pressing in like a fist, her frozen bank accounts a fresh wound bleeding into her resolve. Officer Dale Carter had turned her life into a punching bag. From eviction to arrests to this terrorist label, each hit heavier than the last. Her laptop glowed with scraps of his past, a brutality complaint here, a hushed-up assault there, threads of a racist cop ring she'd sent to Maya. The FBI was sniffing around, her White House job barely intact, and she clung to that, a lifeline. In the storm, she'd emailed a whistleblower link too, chats from a retired cop spilling names, Carter's among them, a syndicate shielding their own. Her phone buzzed, Maya's voice cutting through. Lila, FBI's got it. Carter's suspended. Pending review. You're clear on the leak. Accounts should unlock soon. Lila exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping. For real? Maya's tone warmed. For real. Stay safe. She sank onto the futon, Jamal asleep across the room, his bruised face softer in the dim light. Suspended. Carter off the streets, her money thawing, the leak charge dead. Had she finally landed a real blow? She pictured him raging, badge yanked, his crew scrambling. The whistleblower chats had done it, cracked his armor, and the feds were moving. She texted Eli, the reporter, updating him on the suspension, hinting at the ring. Big story brewing, she typed. Dig deeper. His reply pinged fast. On it. Drinks on me when this breaks. She grinned, tight and fierce, letting herself believe it. Maybe she'd turned the tide. Maybe Carter was done. Morning broke. Crisp, the dorm buzzing as Jamal shuffled off to class, his reinstatement holding strong. Lila checked her bank app, relief flooding as her accounts blinked back to life, funds unfrozen. She paid her rent online, a small victory, then headed to a diner for coffee, needing air after days cooped up. The place smelled of grease and syrup, a TV muttering news in the corner. She sipped black coffee, scrolling her phone, when the screen flashed, CPD officer suspended in corruption probe. Carter's name glowed, her chest swelling. She'd done this, flipped his game, and now the world knew. Was he sweating yet? Could he feel the walls closing in? She walked back to the dorm, the city alive around her, horns blaring, wind whipping her coat. Jamal texted, "All good here. You're a legend." She smiled, stepping into the lobby, ready to crash and plan her next move. Then her phone rang, an unknown number, and her gut twisted. "Lila," a voice hissed, muffled, urgent. "Jamal's gone. Check his dorm now." The line died, her heart slamming as she bolted upstairs, legs burning. His room was empty. Books scattered, his hoodie gone. She called him, no answer, voicemail clicking on. Panic clawed her throat. Where was he? Who'd called? She dialed Maya, voice shaking. "Jamal's missing. Someone tipped me, sounded scared." Maya cursed. "FBI's on Carter, but I'll push them. Stay put." Lila couldn't stay put, pacing, mind racing. Carter, suspended but not cuffed, had struck back, and Jamal was the target. She grabbed her laptop, hacking into his phone's location app. A trick she'd learned in college. A dot pulsed 10 miles north, an industrial sprawl by the river. She bolted, hailing a cab, the driver grumbling as she barked the address. The city blurred past, warehouses looming, her pulse a drumbeat. Had Carter snatched him to punish her win? The cab dropped her at a rusted gate, the lot silent, but for wind-rattling tin roofs. She crept through, spotting a hulking building, its windows dark, a faint light flickering inside. Her phone buzzed, another unknown call. "Jackson!" Carter's voice snarled, low and venomous. "Drop the case or he's dead. Warehouse 3, come alone." Her blood iced, but she moved. Sneakers silent on gravel, fear swallowed by fury. She found the door ajar, slipping into shadows thick with dust and oil. Jamal sat tied to a chair, face bloodied, eyes wide, 5 masked figures circling him. Carter's crew. "Lila!" he croaked, and she lunged, fists up, but a bat cracked, her knee dropping her. Carter stepped from the dark, suspenders dangling, his grin a slash of teeth. "Told you I'd win, girl." She spat blood, glaring. "You're done, Carter. FBI's coming." He laughed, a harsh bark, and nodded to his crew. Not fast enough. A can clattered, gasoline splashing the floor, the stench choking her. She crawled to Jamal, cutting his ropes with a shard of glass from the ground, her hands slick with sweat. "Run," she whispered. But flames roared up. A match struck, the crew bolting as fire swallowed the walls. She yanked him up, his arm. Limp, and they stumbled, heat searing her back, smoke blinding her. They burst outside coughing, collapsing on the gravel as the warehouse blazed, a red beast against the sky. Sirens wailed. Too late, the crew gone, Carter's laugh echoing in her skull. She held Jamal, his breath ragged, her victory torched, to ash. He'd kidnapped her cousin, nearly burned them alive, all while suspended, his rage unbound. How did he slip the feds? She dialed Maya, voice raw. "Warehouse fire, Jamal's hurt. Carter did this." Maya's gasp crackled. "I'm calling it in, get safe." Paramedics swarmed, wrapping Jamal in a blanket, her knee throbbing as she limped beside him. The ambulance a blur of lights. Hospital lights buzzed overhead. Jamal stitched up, his arm bruised but alive. She sat by his bed, guilt gnawing her. She'd exposed Carter, thought she'd won, but he'd turned it into this, a death trap she'd barely escaped. His crew was tight, loyal, willing to kill for him. What kind of pull kept him free? She checked her phone, Eli's text glowing. Stories live, Carter linked to Ring, feds raiding now. Too late for the warehouse, but maybe enough to nail him. She hugged Jamal, his eyes heavy. "We're okay," she lied, but Carter's unhinged move screamed he wasn't done, not by a long shot. Drop a comment with number 1 if you think Carter's a monster who deserves the worst, or number 2 if Lila's courage blows you away. Smash that like button if this fire trap twist has you shook, and subscribe because this fight's far from over. She stared out the hospital window, the city sprawling dark and restless. She thought suspension was the end, but Carter had turned it into a beginning, a war she hadn't signed up for. What's he plotting while the feds chase shadows? Lila Jackson sat by Jamal's hospital bed, the sterile hum of machines a thin shield against the chaos clawing at her mind. The warehouse fire still burned in her lungs, smoke and gasoline, a bitter taste she couldn't spit out. Officer Dale. Carter had snatched Jamal, torched their escape and slipped away. A suspended cop with a death wish and a crew crazy enough to follow. Her knee throbbed where the bat had cracked it, a dull pulse under the bandage, but she barely felt it. Her eyes locked on Jamal's bruised face, his chest rising slow and steady. She'd exposed Carter's ring to the FBI, thought she'd won when he was sidelined, but he'd turned it into this, a near murder she'd dragged her cousin into. She grabbed her phone, dialing Maya, voice a rasp. "He's alive, but Carter's. Crew tried to kill us. Warehouse north side burned it down." Maya's breath hitched. "Jesus, Lila. FBI raided his place, found nothing. He's in the wind. Where are you?" Lila gave the hospital name, her free hand gripping Jamal's. "They're not safe here." "He'll come back." Maya promised feds on the way, her tone sharp with worry. "Hide out, Lila. Friend's place anywhere but there." Lila nodded to the empty room, hanging up, and texted a college buddy, Sasha, who lived across town. "Need a spot now. Trouble." Sasha's reply was quick. "Come over, no questions." Doctors cleared Jamal by dawn, his arm sore but unbroken, and Lila hustled him out, a cab idling in the chill morning air. Sasha's apartment was a 4th floor, walk-up in Pilsen, murals splashed across the brick, a haven of paint fumes and takeout boxes. Sasha, short and fierce with a buzz cut, hugged them both, no words needed, and pointed to a pull-out couch. "Crash, figure it out later." Lila sank into it, Jamal beside her, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. She checked her phone. Eli's. Story live. Cop ring exposed. Carter's name bold. The warehouse fire a breaking update. Feds were hunting, but he was a ghost, and she knew ghosts didn't quit. She slept fitfully, waking to Sasha shaking her, eyes wide. "Lila, TV now." The screen blared a local news anchor, polished and grim. White House aide fakes kidnapping and bizarre scandal. A grainy video rolled, Jamal tied up, Lila cutting him free, but twisted, edited to look staged, her voice dubbed screaming, "This'll get us sympathy." Her jaw dropped, bile rising. Carter. He'd flipped the warehouse, made her the villain. The anchor droned on. Sources say Lila Jackson orchestrated the ordeal using her cousin as a prop. Protests erupted outside Sasha's window, chants of "liar" and worse slurs cutting through the glass, rocks pelting the frame. Lila stumbled to the sill, peering down. A crowd swelling, 50, 60 strong, faces twisted with rage. "She burned it herself," a man bellowed, hurling a bottle that shattered below. Jamal grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "What the hell's this?" She shook her head, numb. "Carter doctored it, leaked it." Her phone buzzed, Maya's name flashing. "Lila, this video's everywhere. White House is scrambling. Feds say it's fake, but the damage is done. Stay low." Lila's voice cracked. "They're outside, Maya. Protesters. He's turned the city against me." Maya cursed, promising security. But the line cut as static burst from Sasha's radio. Carter's voice crackled through, a pirate signal hijacking the airwaves. "Lila Jackson's a fraud, folks. She'll pay for her lies." The crowd roared. Louder bricks smashing windows below. Sasha yelling, "We gotta go." Lila grabbed her bag, Jamal limping behind, Sasha leading them to a fire escape. They climbed down, metal groaning, the mob's shouts a deafening wave. A rock grazed Lila's shoulder, pain flaring, but she kept moving, hitting the alley as sirens wailed, too far off. Sasha pointed to her car, a beat-up hatchback, and they piled in, peeling out as the crowd surged, fists pounding the hood. They ditched the car 6 blocks away, ducking into a shuttered bodega Sasha knew, its owner. Gone for the day. Lila crouched behind a counter, Jamal panting beside her, Sasha barring the door with a broom. "He's insane," Jamal whispered, and Lila nodded, her mind spinning. Carter, suspended, hunted, had flipped her win into this, a public lynching. By proxy. How'd he edit that video so fast? Who was feeding him? She checked her phone, news apps screaming her name. Terrorist aide sparks riot, the lies piling higher. She'd thought the feds had him cornered, but he'd turned her. Into prey, Chicago her cage. Night draped the city, the bodega's silence thick with dust and fear. Lila's phone buzzed, an FBI agent, voice clipped. "Jackson, we're tracing the video, looks forged. Carter's off-grid, but we're close. Stay put." She relayed it to Jamal and Sasha, her knee throbbing, the crowd's echo still in her ears. She'd won, got him suspended, saved Jamal, but Carter had spun it into this nightmare, a city baying for her blood. Then a shot rang out, a sniper's crack splitting the quiet. The bodega's window shattering, glass raining as a bullet grazed her arm, blood blooming on her sleeve. She dove, pulling Jamal down, Sasha screaming, "Get back!" Her arm burned, a shallow gash, but the shot was Carter's, she knew it. His crew still hunting while he played puppet master. She crawled to a corner, peering out, spotting a shadow on a rooftop across the street, rifle glinting. "He's up there," she hissed, Jamal's eyes wide, Sasha grabbing a phone to call 911. Sirens wailed closer, feds or CPD. She couldn't tell, but the shadow vanished. Carter's laugh a phantom in her skull. He'd turned her victory to ash, then aimed to finish her. A public execution broadcast to millions. How'd he know where she was? Was he tracking her? Police swarmed the block, lights flashing, voices barking orders. An FBI agent burst in, badge out. "Lila Jackson?" She nodded, arm bleeding, and he hustled them out, a van waiting. "Snipers! Gone, we're taking you in, safe house." She climbed in, Jamal and Sasha beside her, the city a blur of red and blue. The agent muttered into a radio. "Carter's escalating, we need him now." Lila stared out, blood sticky on her skin, the mob's chants still ringing. She thought suspension was checkmate, but Carter had turned it into this, a sniper's bullet, her prize. He wasn't just fighting, he was orchestrating her end, and she was running out of board to play. The safe house was a drab apartment in Evanston, feds posted outside, Jamal and Sasha crashing on cots. Lila sat by a barred window, arm bandaged, mind churning. Carter had her on the ropes, the video, the riot. Now this shot, each move bolder, deadlier. She'd exposed him, saved Jamal, but he'd twisted it all, made her the monster. How deep? Did his crew run? Could he outlast the feds? She hugged herself, the graze a hot line under gauze, and knew he'd strike again, harder, his desperation a blade she couldn't dodge forever. Lila Jackson sat by the barred window of the Evanston safe house. her bandaged arm a dull ache under the gauze where the sniper's bullet had grazed her. The night outside was thick with shadows, the Fed's boots pacing the hall a faint reassurance against Officer Dale Carter's relentless war. He'd turned her win into a nightmare, the forged video sparking riots. His crew's sniper shot a whisper of death. Jamal slept fitfully on a cot. Sasha sprawled beside him, their breathing the only sound in the drab apartment. Her phone buzzed. Maya's voice cutting through. Lila, White House PR's debunking the video, calling it a fake. Protests are dying down, feds are guarding you tight. You're safe. Lila exhaled, a fragile hope flickering. Thanks, Maya. Tell them to nail Carter fast. Maya promised action, and Lila hung up, letting herself believe it. Had she dodged his worst? Morning light crept through the bars, the safe house quiet but for the feds' murmured updates. An agent, a wiry guy named Torres, poked his head in. Videos falling apart online. Texts traced edits to a burner server. Carter's losing ground. She nodded, relief washing over her, the mob's chants fading from her skull. Jamal stirred, rubbing his eyes. We good? She smiled. Tight but real. Yeah, they're unraveling his lies. Sasha grinned, punching the air. Take that, bastard. Lila checked her phone. News apps flipping the script. White House aide cleared in hoax, the tide turning. Was Carter finally cornered? Could the feds smell his sweat? She paced the room, knee still sore from the warehouse bat, but her mind sharpened. The White House had her back, the sniper miss a fluke, Carter's grip slipping. She pictured him, raging, his crew fraying as the feds closed in. Maybe she'd outlasted him, turned his chaos into her shield. Torres returned, radio crackling. We're locking this down, Jackson. You're golden. She nodded, sinking onto a chair, letting the tension bleed out. Jamal tossed her a granola bar, smirking. Hero diet, right? She laughed, the first real sound in days, and bit in, the crunch a small victory. Had she finally broken his spine? Then her phone chirped, a White House alert, and her gut twisted. She opened it, a security breach notice, her old ID flagged again. Before she could process, Torres' radio screamed, breach, multiple hostiles. The door exploded inward, wood splintering, and masked men stormed in, rifles spitting fire. Bullets ripped through the air, a Fed dropping with a gurgle, blood pooling on the linoleum. Lila dove, dragging Jamal behind a couch, Sasha scrambling. Beside them, Torres fired back, shouting, militia, Carter's crew. Glass shattered, smoke choking the room. The safe house a kill box. How'd they find her? Who cracked the feds? She peeked out, counting 6 gunmen, camo-clad, moving like soldiers, not cops. One kicked Torres's body, snarling, Where's the girl? Her heart slammed, Carter's voice a ghost in her ears. He'd hacked her phone, she realized, the old ID ping his bait, leaking her spot to this hate squad. She grabbed a fallen agent's pistol, hands slick, and whispered, Basement now. Jamal nodded, eyes wide, Sasha crawling ahead. They slipped through a hall, gunfire roaring, a bullet grazing the wall inches from her head. Stairs loomed, dark and narrow, and she shoved them down, slamming a door behind. The lock flimsy but buying seconds. The basement was a concrete tomb, damp and cluttered. A tunnel hatch in the corner Sasha spotted. Old service line, she hissed, prying it open, rust flaking. Lila pushed Jamal through, then Sasha, the gun trembling in her grip as boots thundered above. She slid in last, pulling the hatch shut, the dark swallowing them. They crawled, knees scraping, the tunnel a tight squeeze of mold and echoes, gunfire muffled but relentless. Her arm bled again. The graze reopened, but she grit her teeth, leading them out. How deep was Carter's reach? Had he turned civilians into killers? They emerged in an alley, rain slicking the pavement, sirens wailing distant. Lila's phone buzzed, dead signal, Carter's hack frying it. She tossed it, useless now, and scanned the street, spotting a wanted poster on a pole. Jamal's face glaring back, labeled for the Fed's murder. Her stomach lurched. He framed you, she rasped, Jamal staring, pale. Me? For that? She nodded, fury boiling. Carter had turned the safe house hit into his next lie, pinning the dead agent on her cousin while the militia hunted her. They bolted, ducking into a shuttered garage, rain drumming the roof, her mind racing. She'd thought the feds had her covered, but Carter had flipped it again, a bloodier, bolder strike. Inside, Sasha found a crowbar, Jamal a tire iron, makeshift weapons against a war they didn't ask for. Lila gripped the pistol, 3 rounds left, her arm sticky with blood. "He's not stopping," she said, voice low. "Suspension, feds. None of it matters, he's got an army." Jamal's jaw tightened. "Why us?" She shook her head, rain dripping from her hair. "Because I won in court. Because we're here." Carter's crew wasn't just cops now. It was a militia, fueled by hate chasing his vendetta. How'd he rally them so fast? Was he watching, laughing as they ran? Headlights flashed outside, a truck rumbling, voices barking orders. "Spread out, she's close." Lila peeked, spotting camo figures, rifles gleaming wet, the militia closing in. She'd thought debunking the video was a win. Thought feds meant safety, but Carter had turned it into this, a hunt through Chicago's guts. Her breath hitched, the garage a trap tightening. "Back wall," she whispered, leading them to a loose panel, prying it with the crowbar. They slipped through into another alley, the truck's roar fading, but footsteps echoed, relentless. She'd saved Jamal once, thought she'd saved herself, but Carter's game was bigger, deadlier, and she was bleeding out of moves. Drop a comment with number 1 if you'd take a swing at Carter's smug face for this, or number 2 if Lila's. Grit has you rooting hard. Hit that like button if this militia twist has your heart pounding, and subscribe because this chase is about to get wilder. She crouched in the rain, pistol slick in her hand, Jamal's wanted poster burned into her brain. She'd thought she'd turned the tide, but Carter had turned it into a flood, drowning them in his hate. What's his next play while she's running blind? Lila Jackson crouched in the rain-soaked alley, the pistol's cold weight slick in her palm, her grazed arm throbbing under the soaked bandage. Jamal's wanted poster glared from a pole nearby, accusing him of a Fed's murder in the safe house ambush, another of Officer Dale Carter's twisted lies. Sasha panted beside her, crowbar clutched tight, Jamal's tire iron trembling in his grip, the militia's shouts echoing through the wet Chicago night. Lila's mind spun, the White House debunking Carter's fake video a hollow win now, shredded by his militia's rifles, and this frame-up. She'd thought feds meant safety, but Carter had turned it into a slaughter, and they were hunted, cornered, bleeding. She whispered, "We can't run forever. I'm turning myself in." Jamal's eyes widened, rain streaking his bruised face. "What? No, they'll lock you up." Sasha nodded, fierce. "He's right, Lila, you're not the bad guy." But Lila shook her head, voice firm. "It's the only way to clear you, Jamal. I've got evidence. Carter's hack, the militia, feds'll see it." She pulled a USB from her pocket. Backups. Of her phone logs, the whistleblower chats, everything she'd dug up. "Take this, Sasha. Get it to Eli if I don't make it." Sasha took it, jaw tight, and Lila stood, rain plastering her hair, marching toward the sirens flashing 2 blocks away. Feds swarmed her in the street, rifles up, voices barking, "Lila Jackson, drop the weapon." She tossed the pistol, hands high, rain stinging her eyes. "I'm surrendering. I've got proof Carter framed us." They cuffed her, rough but fast, shoving her into a van, the city a blur of lights and water. Jamal and Sasha vanished into the dark, her last glimpse their silhouettes ducking behind a dumpster. The precinct was a fortress, steel doors and buzzing. Lights, agents grilling her in a stark room. She laid it out, the hack, the militia, Jamal's innocence, her voice steady despite the cuffs cutting her wrists. "Check my phone logs, the burner calls, it's all him." Hours crawled, her sitting alone, the graze on her arm crusting over. An agent, Torres from the safe house, returned, face grim but softened. "Logs check out, militia's tied to Carter. He's arrested, caught fleeing a hideout. You're clear, Jackson, and your cousin's off the hook." Relief crashed over her, a wave she hadn't dared hope for. Released, she stepped into dawn, the rain gone, air crisp and biting. Carter, nabbed Jamal safe, her name untangled from his lies. She limped to Sasha's, finding them waiting, Jamal hugging her so tight her ribs ached. "You did it," he whispered, and she nodded. exhaustion pulling her down. Had she finally stopped him? She crashed on Sasha's couch, sleep swallowing. Her dreaming of quiet, of victory. She woke to a boom that shook the walls, a blast so loud her ears rang, the room tilting. Sasha yelled, "What the hell?" Jamal bolted up, eyes wild, and Lila stumbled to the window, heart sinking. Smoke billowed miles off, a black plume over the south side, her old neighborhood. Her phone buzzed, Eli's name flashing. "Lila, turn on the news now." She grabbed Sasha's remote, flipping to a live feed, the anchor's voice trembling. Breaking: a church bombing in Chicago's south side. Dozens dead. Suspect Lila Jackson linked via manifesto. Her knees buckled, the screen showing her. Childhood church, St. Luke's, its steeple gone. Flames licking the rubble. The anchor read, "A document claims Jackson bombed it in revenge against police, found at the scene." She choked, "That's not me." But the broadcast cut to her face, the fake video, the terrorist label, all stitched together. Riots erupted on screen, crowds torching cars, screaming her name. "Murderer!" Sasha stared, pale. "Carter?" Lila nodded, numb. "Even locked up, he's doing this." Jamal grabbed her arm, voice shaking. "We gotta run, they'll kill us." She shook her head, frozen. The city she loved now, a mob baying for her blood. Her phone rang, Maya, voice frantic. "Lila, this is bad. Manifesto's forged, but it's got your prints. Feds are scrambling. Where are you?" Lila rasped. "Sasha's. He bombed St. Luke's, pinned it on me." Maya cursed. "Get out, hide, we'll fight it." But the TV blared louder. Carter on a jailhouse feed, smirking. "She framed me, folks. I'm innocent. She's the terrorist." Released on bail, he stood free, the news spinning him victim. Her monster. Lila's stomach churned. His crew's work. A bomb timed to bury her while he walked. How'd he plant it from a cell? Who'd he pay? She grabbed her bag, Sasha and Jamal following, slipping out a back door as sirens wailed closer. They ducked into an abandoned lot, weeds tangling their legs, the city's roar a distant thunder. Lila's mind raced. Carter's arrest a ruse, his ring deeper than she'd guessed, bombing her church, her roots to break her. She'd surrendered, cleared Jamal, thought she'd won, but he'd turned it into this, a massacre with her name on it. "Underground," she said, voice hollow. "We go dark." Sasha nodded, knowing a spot, a squat in Humboldt Park, and they moved, shadows in the dawn, the weight of dozens dead crushing her chest. The squat was a crumbling shell, no heat, windows, boarded, a mattress reeking of mildew there thrown. Lila sat, knees up, the TV's images burned into her lids, kids she'd known, elders who'd hugged her, gone in flames. Jamal whispered, "Why us?" She had no answer, guilt drowning her. Carter had lost, been cuffed, but struck back with this, a citywide manhunt, her reward. Sasha scavenged a radio, static crackling, news spitting her name. Terrorist at large, armed and dangerous. She'd thought arrest was the end, but he'd turned it into a beginning, a war she couldn't fight. Her phone buzzed, a burner Sasha'd grabbed, Maya's voice faint. "Feds know it's fake, but public's lost. Riots. Everywhere, stay hidden." Lila hung up, staring at the wall, Carter's smirk a ghost taunting her. He'd bombed her past, framed her present, stolen her future, all while cuffed, his crew a hydra she couldn't kill. How many hands pulled these strings? She hugged herself, the squat's chill seeping in, Jamal's eyes hollow beside her. She'd cleared his name, thought she'd saved them, but Carter had turned it into ash, a city screaming for her head, and she was out of moves. Lila Jackson huddled in the Humboldt Park squat, the mildew-stinking mattress a throne in her crumbling kingdom. The church bombing's echo still rattled her bones, St. Luke's ashes a weight on her chest, dozens dead, her name scrawled on. A forged manifesto Officer Dale Carter had pinned to her soul. Chicago rioted outside, a city-turned executioner, while Carter walked free on bail, his smirk a taunt on every screen. Jamal sat beside her, eyes sunken, Sasha pacing the boarded-up room, the burner phone their only tether to hope. Lila's arm ached, the sniper graze crusted over, her knee a dull throb from the warehouse bat, but pain was a whisper against the guilt clawing her gut. She'd cleared Jamal, thought Carter's arrest was victory, only for him to bomb her, past and bury her alive. The burner buzzed, Maya's voice a lifeline through static. Lila, feds traced the bomb. Carter's crew planted it, but he's untouchable. Alibied up. We're fighting the narrative. Stay dark. Lila rasped. They're hunting us, Maya. I'm ending this. She hung up, Jamal staring. Ending how? She pulled a scalpel from Sasha's scavenged medkit, taping it to her wrist, a last-ditch blade. His hideout. I've got a burner cam from Eli. I'll record him confessing. Livestream it. Sasha frowned, handing her the tiny device. You're crazy. Where's he even at? Lila scrolled old notes, a tip from the whistleblower chats, a warehouse near the docks Carter favored. There, she said, voice steel. I go alone. Jamal grabbed her arm, bruised face tight. No way. I'm with you. She shook him. Off, gentle but firm. You're wanted. Stay with Sasha. Keep that USB safe. He relented, eyes wet, and she hugged him, then slipped out, the night swallowing her. Rain had stopped, the air sharp with diesel and decay, her sneakers silent. On cracked pavement, the docks loomed, a maze of rust and shadow, the warehouse a hulking beast with peeling paint. She crept in, cam clipped to her collar, streaming live to Eli's secure link, her breath fogging the dark. Had Carter slipped the feds again? Was he waiting? Inside, the air was thick with oil and rot, crates stacked like tombstones. Voices murmured, low and rough, and she edged closer, spotting Carter by a table, maps spread, his crew around him, masks off, rifles slung. He laughed, a jagged sound. She's done. City's eating her alive. Lila's blood boiled, her finger tapping the cam, thousands watching live, she hoped. She stepped out, scalpel hidden, voice cutting through. Not yet, Carter. His head snapped up, grin fading to a snarl, his crew whirling, guns up. You got guts, girl, he spat, advancing. Should have burned with your cousin. She stood tall, cam rolling. Confess, Dale. The bomb, the ring, all of it. He lunged, fist swinging, but she dodged, slashing the scalpel across his arm, blood spraying. His crew froze, stunned, and she tackled him, knee in his gut, choking his neck with her arm. Say it, she hissed, cam steady, his face purple. I bombed it, he choked. St. Luke's my guys, not you. The confession blasted live. Her heart pounding, viewers spiking, Eli texting, It's out, keep going. Cops swarmed in, sirens screaming, feds and CPD, guns drawn, but Carter's crew snapped awake, firing wild, a shootout erupting. Bullets tore crates, ricocheted off steel, a fed dropping, blood pooling. Lila rolled off Carter, his gasp a gurgle, and bolted, a bullet clipping her leg, hot pain searing through. She stumbled, dragging herself behind a stack, blood soaking. Her jeans, the cam still streaming. Chaos lived for the world. Carter roared, Get her! His crew advancing, feds returning fire, the warehouse a war zone. She crawled, legs screaming toward a side door, smoke rising as someone torched the maps, evidence blazing. She hit the exit, collapsing outside, rain starting again, her breath ragged, blood trailing. Sirens wailed closer, choppers thumping. Overhead, but Carter burst through, limping, eyes wild, his arm dripping red. You're dead, he snarled, lunging. She scrambled back, leg useless, scalpel gone, the cam dangling, still live. He grabbed her throat, squeezing, her vision spotting black rain blurring his grin. She clawed his face, nails raking, and feds swarmed, tackling him, cuffs snapping as he thrashed, screaming. Lila gasped, coughing, blood and rain mixing on. Her lips, the cam catching it all, thousands watching her fight to breathe. Torres, the fed, hauled her up. You're okay, Jackson, we've got him. She nodded, dazed, leg a fire pit, but Carter's crew had torched the warehouse, flames, roaring evidence ash. Her live stream cut, battery dead, and she slumped, the fight draining out. Back at Sasha's, medics patched her leg, a clean shot through muscle, no bone, but pain pulsed with every beat. Jamal hugged her, sobbing, You're insane. And Sasha grinned, USB safe in her pocket. Eli called, voice shaking. Lila! It hit millions, confessions viral, but trolls say it's fake. Carter's spinning it. Her stomach sank, the wind slipping. She turned on the TV, news split, some hailing her, others screaming fraud. Carter's jailhouse smirk, claiming she staged it. Then Maya rang, tone grave. "White House is cutting ties, Lila. You're a liability, too hot. I'm sorry." She hung up, the words a gut punch. Her job gone, her shield shattered. Lila stared at the wall, leg bandaged, rain drumming outside. She'd infiltrated his lair, got the confession live, thought she'd won. But Carter's crew burned the proof, and the White House bailed, leaving her exposed. How'd he twist it from cuffs? She'd risked everything, bled for it, live-streamed his truth, but trolls and his lies muddied it, her victory ash like the warehouse. Jamal whispered, "What now?" She shook her head, voice hollow. "I don't." "No?" Sasha knelt beside her, fierce. "You showed the world that's something." But it wasn't enough. Carter's grin a ghost, his next move a shadow she couldn't see. The squat's chill sank in, her leg a throbbing anchor, the city's roar distant but alive with hate. She'd thought the confession was checkmate, feds swarming her win, but Carter had flipped it again, evidence torched, her job dust leaving her bleeding alone. How deep did his ring run? Was he laughing in his cell? She hugged her knees, Jamal's breathing soft beside her, Sasha's eyes hard. She'd fought, won the moment, but lost the war. The world split on her truth, and Carter's shadow loomed, unbowed, unbroken, waiting. Lila Jackson slumped against the squat's damp wall, the bandage on her shot leg a soggy weight, blood seeping through from the warehouse chaos. Officer Dale Carter's confession had streamed live to millions, his choked, "I bombed it," a fleeting victory torched when his crew burned the evidence, the White House cutting her loose like dead weight. Jamal slept fitfully beside her, Sasha pacing the creaky floor, the burner phone silent since Maya's call. Chicago's riots simmered outside, her name a curse on the airwaves. Carter's jailhouse lies spinning her truth into fraud. Her arm, Graze ached, her knee throbbed, but the pain was nothing next to the fury boiling in her chest. She'd thought she'd won, exposed him, but he'd slipped the noose again, his ring deeper, darker than she'd dreamed. A siren wailed close, then cut off, boots stomping outside. Sasha froze, whispering, "Feds?" Lila shook her head, gut twisting. No, too quiet. The door exploded inward, wood splintering, and Carter loomed in the frame, free, wild-eyed, a pistol gleaming in his hand. Two masked goons flanked him, rifles up, hospital scrubs dangling from Lila's medkit in his grip. "Found you," he snarled, voice a blade. "Bail's a bitch, huh?" Lila lunged for the scalpel taped to her wrist, but he kicked her wounded leg, pain blasting white-hot, dropping her. Jamal yelled, tackled by a goon, Sasha swinging a chair that cracked uselessly against another. Carter dragged her up by the hair, pistol jamming her ribs, his breath sour with rage. "You thought a live-stream'd stop me? You're nothing." He shoved her toward the stairs, his crew hauling Jamal and Sasha, the squat abandoned as he marched them to a van, tires screeching into the night. Her leg screamed, blood trickling, but she tracked the turns, the river's stench, the docks again. He'd busted out, hijacked her from safety, his final play unfolding. How'd he slip custody? Who'd sprung him? The van stopped. A rooftop, hatch opening, cold wind whipping as he dragged her up, the city sprawling below, lights a mocking sea. He zip-tied her wrists, tossing her to the gravel roof, Jamal and Sasha bound beside her. A camera rig blinked red, streaming live, his voice booming to millions. "Lila Jackson, traitor, terrorist, ends tonight. Watch her pay." Her stomach lurched, his militia storming Chicago's streets below, fires blooming, sirens wailing, his chaos unleashed. She twisted, scalpel still taped, cutting the ties slow, her leg a dead weight. Carter ranted, "She framed me, burned her own, but I'm the truth." The world watched, her name poison, his grin a death sentence. Had he planned this from jail? Was this his endgame? She freed her hands, lunging as he turned, scalpel slashing his thigh, blood spurting. He roared, pistol swinging, but she ducked, tackling him, her leg buckling, locking his neck in a chokehold. "Confess again," she hissed, scalpel at his throat, the cam rolling, millions tuned in. His crew froze, Rifles up, but she squeezed, his face purpling. "Say it, Carter," he gagged. "I did it, St. Luke's, all me." The words a gurgle, live for the world, her breath ragged, blood mixing with rain on her hands. Jamal kicked free, Sasha grabbing a goon's gun, chaos erupting as choppers thumped overhead, feds closing in. Carter thrashed, elbow slamming her gut, breaking her grip, and he surged, rage unhinged. "You're done," he bellowed, shoving her toward the edge, the drop a black maw below. Her leg gave, slipping, and she clawed the ledge, fingers scraping. Rain slicking her grip, the cam dangling, streaming her fall to millions. Jamal yelled, tackled a goon, Sasha firing wild, bullets sparking. But Carter loomed, laughing, his boot inches from her hands. "Die, girl," he spat, the city watching, her life a thread. How'd he turn cuffs into this? Was this his last? Laugh? Feds swarmed, rotors blasting wind, ropes dropping, agents sliding down, guns barking. Carter spun, firing, a bullet grazing his shoulder, but he lunged, kicking at her fingers, her grip slipping, nails clawing gravel. An agent tackled him, cuffs snapping, his scream a feral howl. "She's the liar!" Lila's arms burned, the ledge crumbling, rain blinding her. The cam catching every gasp, millions holding breath. Torres, the Fed, grabbed her wrist, hauling her up, her leg a useless drag, blood pooling as she collapsed safe. Carter pinned, his crew scattering, choppers circling tight. Medics swarmed, her leg a fire pit, Jamal and Sasha freed, clinging to her, the rooftop a war zone of cuffs and shouts. Carter thrashed, cuffed, his live stream cut, the confession echoing online, undeniable now. Torres knelt, voice low. "You got him, Jackson? It's over." She nodded, dazed, rain washing blood from her face. The city below a chaos of his making, militia clashing with cops, fires raging. She'd forced his truth, live, thought she'd won, but he'd nearly killed. Her his final play, a public execution she'd barely survived. How'd he rally this from a cell? Who'd backed him? Sasha hugged her, Jamal sobbing, "You're crazy," and she laughed, a broken sound, pain drowning relief. The feds hauled Carter off, his grin gone, eyes dead, the cam's red light a ghost in her mind. She'd choked his confession, saved herself, but the city burned, her leg bled, and his shadow lingered, his crew's chaos a wound she couldn't close. How deep was his hate? She slumped, medics lifting her, the chopper's roar fading, her body a wreck, mind spinning. She'd thought the warehouse was her stand, but Carter had turned it into this, a rooftop gallows she'd clawed off, leaving her dangling still. Lila Jackson lay on a stretcher, rain streaking her bloodied face as the chopper's blades thumped overhead, lifting her from the rooftop where she'd nearly died. Officer Dale Carter's second confession, choked out live with her scalpel. At his throat, still rang in her ears a roar, "I did it, St. Luke's, all me," that millions had seen. Feds swarmed below, cuffing him, his malicious chaos fading into the Chicago night, fires flickering in the distance. Her leg throbbed, the bullet wound a hot mess under fresh bandages. Her arm grazed a dull ache, but she'd won, dragged his truth into the light again. Jamal clung to her hand, Sasha beside him, their faces pale but alive, the stretcher jostling as medics rushed her to safety. Torres, the Fed, shouted over the roar, "You're a hero, Jackson, it's done." She nodded, exhaustion swallowing, her believing it this time. The hospital was a blur of white walls and antiseptic sting, her leg stitched, IV dripping, Jamal and Sasha hovering as she drifted in and out. News blared from a TV, anchors hailing her. White House aide exposes cops' bombing plot. Carter's face plastered beside hers, his confession looping, undeniable now. Her chest swelled, a fragile pride piercing the pain. She'd fought, bled, nearly fallen off that roof, but she'd nailed him. His crew crumbling, the city waking up. Nurses whispered awe, a doctor muttering, "Tough as hell," and she let herself sink into it, the first real rest since court. Had she finally buried him? Was this justice at last? Morning broke, sunlight slanting through blinds, Jamal grinning as he shoved a phone at her. "Look, Lila, you're trending, hero of Chicago." She scrolled, shaky but smiling, posts flooding in. She took him down, and truth wins. Her leg ached, propped on pillows, but the weight was lifting, Carter's cuffs a lock. She'd turned. Sasha brewed coffee in a corner, the squat's grim air a memory, and Lila breathed, tasting something like peace. Then Torres burst in, badge glinting, face tight. "Jackson, we've got a problem." Her stomach dropped, the room tilting. "What now?" He handed her a tablet, a leaked White House memo glowing on screen, and her world cracked open. The memo, stamped classified, read, "Lila Jackson, clerical staff, no policy clearance, ID. Falsified for access." Her breath caught, the words a punch. Clerical staff? She'd worked racial justice initiatives, sat in briefings, shaped programs, her ID, her shield. Torres's voice was low, grim. "It's legit, Lila. They're saying you bluffed your way up, forged creds. Carter's team dug it up, leaked it, claiming you're the real fraud." She stared, numb, the hospital's hum fading. "That's impossible," she rasped, but flashes hit, her first day, a temp gig stretched by grit, gaps she'd filled with nerve, not clearance. Had she built a lie? Jamal grabbed the tablet, eyes wide. "This is bullshit, you're no clerk." Sasha nodded, fierce. "They're scared, covering their asses." But Lila's mind spun, memories fraying, her ID a clerk's, not a policymaker's. Her influence a hustle she'd sold herself. The TV shifted, breaking news. White House aide's heroics a hoax, Carter's crew spinning her confession livestream as staged, his release on a technicality flashing, evidence tainted by fraud. Her stomach churned, the city's cheers souring, posts flipping. She lied. Hand Carter's the victim. She'd choked his truth, thought she'd won, but he'd turned her own bluff into his escape, the hero crown a noose. Feds swarmed the room, Torres stepping back as agents cuffed her, cold metal biting her wrists. Again. "Lila Jackson, you're under arrest for fraud, impersonation, federal breach." She didn't fight, shock rooting her, Jamal yelling, "She saved us." Sasha lunging, held back by a cop. The hospital spun, her leg dragging as they hauled her out, cameras flashing, reporters shouting, "Was it all a lie?" She stumbled into a van, the city a blur of hate, her name poison again. Carter's smirk glowed on a precinct TV as she passed, freed, his cruise leak flipping the board, her truth drowned in her own deception. How'd they find it? Who'd sold her out? The cell was a concrete box, her leg a throbbing anchor, the clang of bars, her requiem. She sat, head in hands, the memo's words a loop, clerical staff falsified. She'd started as a temp, pushed into policy by grit, never checked the fine print. Her hustle a house of cards Carter's ring had toppled. Jamal visited, glass between them, his voice cracking. "You're no fraud, Lila. You fought for me." She met his eyes, hollowed out. "I'd do it all again," she whispered, a spark flickering in the ash. He nodded, tears falling, vowing, "I'll fight this. Get you out." But the door shut, his promise a whisper against the clang. News leaked in, Carter walking, his crew framing her lie as the scandal, the bombing a footnote. "Disgraced aide jailed," headlines screamed, her livestream a relic, his confession muddied by her bluff. She'd thought she'd won, exposed. Him twice, but he'd turned her own skin against her, a clerk's ID her undoing. How'd he dig so deep? Was it luck or a mole? She paced the cell, legs stiff, the squats fight, the rooftop chokehold, all dust now, her defiance a candle in a storm. Carter's ring had outplayed her, the city blind, her truth a lie they'd swallowed. Days bled into weeks, her leg healing slow, the cell's grey a mirror to her mind. Jamal's letters came, updates on appeals, Sasha digging with Eli, but the White House stayed silent, her job a ghost. She'd fought for justice, bled for it, nearly died, but her bluff had cracked it open. Carter's hate the winner. She sat back to the wall, replaying every step, caught to cuffs, her grit a weapon he'd turned. Had she pushed too far? Was this her fault? The guard's keys jangled, a routine echo, but her spark flared, unbowed, a whisper against the dark. She'd lost, but she'd fight again somehow, someway. Lila Jackson's journey in racist cops disrespect a young black girl in court, not knowing she's a White House insider, unveils raw truths about resilience, systemic racism, and the cost of fighting back. Her story teaches us that courage can shine even in the darkest corners, as she faced brutal retaliation from Officer Dale Carter, a man wielding power to crush her for daring to win in court. Lila's grit, forged on Chicago's South Side, pushed her to expose his racist crimes, from framing her cousin to bombing her church, showing that standing up isn't just noble, it's a battlefield. Yet, her false White House status reveals a bitter lesson. Even the strongest armor can crack under its own flaws. Her hustle, a Clark's bluff stretched into influence, became Carter's weapon, flipping her victory into defeat. The tale hammers home the depth of systemic bias, where a racist cop's ring could turn a city against her, twisting truth into lies with bombs and fake videos. It's a stark reminder that justice isn't guaranteed. Sometimes it's a mirage, snatched by those who bend the rules. Lila's defiance, even in jail, whispers hope. Losing the fight doesn't mean losing. The fire. Her story begs us to question who holds power, who writes the narrative, and what we'd risk to right a wrong. So what do you take from Lila's war? Drop a comment. Number 1, if you'd fight like her. Number 2, if you think the system's too broken to beat. Hit like if her grit moves you. Subscribe for more real talk tales and share to spark the convo. Thanks for riding this roller coaster with us. Here's to chasing justice, one battle at a time, and wishing you strength to stand tall when the world pushes back.